Yeah, what about that as a different way of looking at things, Ollie? Where instead of going to meetings with pimps to get funding to do these things and permissions to do these things, let's just go to places where we can just do these things.
Ollie, in the nature reserve at Camley Street, we found out something which we haven't followed up on since. There's about 50, at least, land nature reserves around London, which they're unable to do anything with because of lack of funding. And so I was talking with the guys at Camley Street Nature Reserve, saying, look, I've been involved in things like this. I know people who are involved in who care for land and nature and wildlife. Isn't it plausible that volunteers could take over some of these places and you wouldn't need funding? You just do it, right?
That makes sense.
If you want plants, there's lots of nurseries that give away free trees around London. There's garden centres which, like Camden for example, give away plants which they can no longer sell because they're just a little bit dry or something, or a bit off season. There's, Cumberland Flower Market? Apparently at the end of the day they've got lots of stuff which doesn't get taken back with them. So there's all these places where you've got possibilities of gathering things. Not only that, there's garden centres which seed share, and not garden centres, places like, I'm thinking places like Evelyn Garden, what do you call that? Garden projects.
Yeah, but even Camley Street, tiny little thing, but they've got loads of seeds and loads of little plants sprouting. And there's loads of schools that would sprout little plants and grow them to a certain stage, but then not be able to do much more with them because they haven't got the space, but you could just collect all those. So that's working with schools.
So the point is,
you've got,
there's 50, at least 50 plots of land where nothing is being done. Not that anything.
They're not just plots of land though, they're nature spaces.
Yes, nature spaces.
Unbroken spaces.
Where, which are there to be experimented with, and I don't mean that in a kind of Frankenstein way.
With a free model.
Yeah, thinking of something totally harmonising with conservation, with nature. You know, even if it was to do with building things.
I'm especially thinking, like Ollie, and what you're bringing up is prime forage. I'm especially thinking of people who want to live on the land somewhere, who find themselves in cities.
Yes.
Who, if they're respectful people, could just start living in these places.
Think
and
of
once
like
10 of them are in one of these places, that's an eco-village, but still nobody knows.
Growing, I don't know how to describe them, like buildings which are kind of half garden, half house. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So then you're totally...
willow huts and stuff.
Yeah, willow huts, or things where, like when they're built into a hill and you've got like a growing reef.
Yeah.
And you've got...
hobbit holes.
Yeah, exactly. And something where your primary task, your primary thought is for the indigenous species. Accepting a human being as being also an indigenous species. So how can all of that live together and work together without treading on each other's toes? And just like we did with the little garden, like when we made that little garden on St Pancras, we didn't dig up everything that was already there. We grew things with
we saved all the weeds.
We
watered the weeds as much as the flowers.
Plants, you know. They became beautiful. Just because it made people see them in a different way. You had these wonderful weeds, which otherwise
which did flower as well.
Yeah, which otherwise the British Waterways people were going around poisoning.
Yeah. Oh, that was another thing. British Waterways didn't destroy our thing. They go around and spray and cut everywhere along the canal, but they were hands off at our thing without us even telling them, hey, don't touch our garden. They were like, hey, we wouldn't touch your garden.
And the ironic thing is that some of those weeds are really important for the other wildlife.
Yeah, I bet.
You know, birds eat them. People can eat some of them.
And bees live off those
bees.
Flowers.
My gosh, there are so many bees.
They're wild flowers, like, you know, it's just
In
a
this
wild
little
invasive.
patch, we just had lots of bees coming to our roof and coming to this little patch of garden. Frogs coming to this little patch of garden.
Somehow.
You know, and it's just. Yeah.
Sure how.
We must be doing something right.
Come from the...
Just anywhere that there's a bit of space, nature will thrive in. Unless you put all this effort into stopping it, which is what we do. Like out here, it's all thriving. And it's right there, and nobody goes there because it's not city. Well, people do go there for walks and all that thing, but nobody goes to live there because you're not allowed to. But even more than that, nobody goes there to even just have fires and talk about the old days because you're certainly not encouraged to and all that thing. But if we just start having fires again and talking about the old days and sharing with each other that really what we want to do is just live in nature and grow food, but we're in the city because we feel akin with our brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers and kids and all those reasons, our families and our politics and our knowledge and our human weight of knowledge. We sit around those fires and we talk about those things and we feel relief just for expressing them. Then we feel more relief because we'll fall asleep around the fire and wake up the next day and go, shit man, I'm going to go and get a shovel and a fork and some seeds. And that's it. It's begun. Like, that's imminent. Remember all those people that used to be at the George? This is, what, a 10-minute walk away from the George. Why not have it as the new George? All the same concepts get to live there and you all get to meet up with each other again. And there's no landlord, no rent, no us and them, no we live in the house and we just visit. None of that politics is in the new place. How fantastic would that be? But you can all come with your axes and your wood tools and all that thing and just construct beautiful buildings. Sure, at some stage we'll have to defend those buildings with the law, but we'll be able to do that now.
What are you talking about in the marshes?
Yeah. Eco-village and everything but name.
Wow.
And not paying.
No name, no people. Not necessarily anyone living there. If we attract loads of vandal tourists, fucking kids, tourists, drunks, all those things, hey man, from our point of view of why we're still in the city is because these people have nowhere. And if we're making somewhere, it's for these people as much as anyone else.
To do it there would be...
There's massive stuff. Come on, there goes for half an hour, an hour's walk.
Yeah. Have you been over there?
Not all over all of it.
Yeah. There's... It would be interesting. The Olympics is staked quite heavily in that area. So you've got vast swathes of land which has been...
Fenced?
No, it's not been fenced, but it is football pitches.
Oh, yeah.
And cricket grounds. And so come next year, you're going to have vast tourism, drunken people, all of this. It would be interesting. It'd be interesting.
But between now and then, like right beside where we are, we've already begun it.
Yeah.
It hasn't caused the slightest shimmer of, oh fuck, a load of hobos have moved in. There's not a shimmer of that yet, and there needn't ever be.
That's true.
But we can build a structure just there, near that stone thing, a nice wooden structure, out of trees. And we can make it really beautiful because you guys have got hand tools and been practicing. And when you get together again, few hours of carving. While some of the others are off doing a few hours of foraging. While a few others are off doing a few hours of neatly, nicely stacking up loads of firewood.
Become next.
Hiding it near where we have fires, but not obvious to see. Etc. etc. See what I mean? You're making all the shortcuts in my head and going, oh yeah, once I've made all these shortcuts in my head, all this is good too. Yeah. All you need is an empty space. Got loads actually.
Yeah.
But we'll start with one, just for a few months, just for this summer. And we'll see where we're at in September, wherever we all want to live, and what we think about the Olympics, and whether it's time to scare the fuck out of London anyway before it just gets bombed. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe that's what we're going to find by September.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. But yeah, this summer, there we go. We've got the venue. We don't have to go to any more meetings. We don't have to put it off any longer. We don't have to have 2 or 3 representatives and then a load of donkeys doing all the work while the 2 or 3 representatives continue to go to meetings and swan around as if they're doing everything while they're doing fuck all, only getting vibes off the donkeys, because the donkeys are getting sick of doing all the work while these fuckers are running around with whips. So all of that need not happen at all, because there's no codependency between an inner circle and an outer circle in this idea. Nobody's paying the rent at the end of the day. Nobody's mother is going to get in trouble with their lover at the end of the day, or whatever it might be. And if we can do it here, the whole world's going to be inspired that you can do it in Madison Square Garden, you can do it fucking everywhere. Parallel to this, there's some new things coming out of Glastonbury this summer as well that haven't come out before, so this won't be the only urban populated area that's usually full of shit that starts coming out with really cool truth in a place where you can just go to that place and chat your truth as well, and it's all just kind of, easy one. But where people who don't know about certain bits of the truth can just find out real easy. There's intriguing art knocking around the place that's got all this historical truth and stuff in it. But imagine taking that attitude again and doing another thing at the Tate. Why we're not. But this time we not make it into a market sales thing with a load of art to attract people in. But make it just a whole load of art to attract people in. But all the art is, yet again, is our lifestyle. What we practice here. Practice building together, practice being able to make structures that we know we can put up and take down. Wooden structures that we can just fit back together again or take down. That would be really smart, it would be handy. But it's a new sort of festival. It's having gatherings for a whole summer instead of having festivals for 3 or 4 days and
the wall and the ticket
coming out of them fucked. Yeah. But this kind of chat I'm making here was very much so inspired by the Regent's Park stuff. It's not as if there's any criticism of Regent's Park and what I'm saying at all. This is just 2 years later getting back to this point where we were with the boat back then and going, everything that came up was like enlightened ideas that were a bit far out back then look really plausible now. You should just go and plant little gardens like we did last summer. I couldn't have said that 2 years ago. What was your take on that fire the other night, Ollie?
I was really happy to meet those people. Massively stimulating in a really good way. I kind of, I I kind of closed down a little bit, just I don't know why, but the actual meat was top notch. It's really like obviously useful, things to be doing.
I meant the fire though, not not as much the gathering and passing clouds, but the fire.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's really important to be able to create a space to bring up these issues which aren't allowed to surface or just don't surface for whatever reason, unless you hold a space open for them and give due respect to all of that, which was done, and then I guess it's to be expected that things arise out of that, issues come to the light. People kind of noticing something that they didn't see there before, identifying a new trajectory, or an adapted trajectory.
I guess it's if one holds a space that is really creative and really open and really simply confident in itself, then after a little while, whatever's holding you back in yourself from full freedom kind of comes up for you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a little bit of chaos in all of our lives as to, hey, what do I feel a bit like shadowy about the other night with when I wasn't totally comfortable? What was I not totally comfortable with the other night? Because the other night was really good, and yet I had this lingering discomfort afterwards. Because mine would be my usual stuff again. So I guess that's the same for all of us. But my usual stuff is, I won't be accepted for being so fucking out there, man. When I start to speak, I speak so in the way I do that it has this effect where it's fucking all outside the box. So I bet I'm actually going to get castigated as a lunatic again. Whereas directly after the meeting and the next day, really I was feeling like, wow, that just went really smooth. But by the next morning I'd set up a little obstacle for myself of, okay, because of last night I now have to, because of last night there's this big door open now where there's a gang of us. Fucking great. And so there was an eagerness to get in touch with the gang and say, hey, come on, let's...
You're in my gang now.
No, not so much of that. Just go, what the fuck are we going to do now then?
Yeah.
Let's just decide now and start doing it.
Yeah.
That's what my thing was. Because for me, I'm just going to keep on doing